It's summer, and summer reminds me of the Olympics. Well, also mosquitoes and sweating a lot, but the Olympics too, and some of my favorite Olympic events are in track and field. You've got running, you've got jumping, you've got running and jumping, you've got running while holding a pole and then jumping with that pole. And you have stuff like shooting bowls out of the sky and flinging a javelin dangerously far in a direction toward a crowd, or hitting targets with a bow and arrow. Track and field has it all. And just when you think you've had as much track as you can stand, field is there to bring you home. The two work well together, and thankfully Konami had the bright idea in the late 80s to bring these fun summer events into the home where children could enjoy running as fast as they can from the safety of their own carpeted floors. Let's take a look at Track and Field and Track and Field 2 on the NES. To start, Track and Field gives you the option of playing by yourself or with a friend. Playing with a friend will certainly ramp up the experience having someone to compete with, but you can play the game solo and even beat it by stringing all the events together without failing. There are two modes, A and B. A is easier, B is harder, and these options don't change the gameplay so much as they raise the bar for how to win. To me, this game is actually fun, and a bit challenging even on Mode A. There are 8 different track and field events. The first is the 100-meter dash, where you just have to mash the A button like a maniac for about 12 seconds and hope you qualify. Easy enough. The next event is the long jump. Here you get to mashing that A button again to get your speed up, and right before you get to the line, you press up on the D-pad to take flight. It's tricky, because the length of time you press that up button corresponds to the angle of your jump, so not only do you have to press up at the right time and not cross the line, or be too early, you have to mind how long you hold in that button by watching this angular counter. It's touchy. Now, we've ran and we've jumped. In the 110-meter hurdles, we'll be doing a ton more of that. Here, once again, go wild on A, and then around the time you enter the hurdle shadow, press up to jump it, and then keep pressing A to continue booking it down the track. This one is kind of fun. Next is the javelin throw. First, you need to build up speed, so smash that A button a bunch, and then right before you get to the line, press that control pad to get the angle of your throw just right, and then let go. It's like long jump in this way, but instead of jumping, you're hurling an incredibly dangerous missile as far as you can chuck it. Now, this one is pretty easy. Next is skeet shooting. NES heads will recognize this event from the clay shooting mode on Duck Hunt, except here, the light gun doesn't work, which is a bummer. This event took a long time for me to get the hang of. You have targets coming from the left and the right. Press the A button to shoot any skeets that enter your red square on the right, and use the control pad to shoot any that enter on the left. You'll have to be quick. Again, it takes some getting used to, but once you get the rhythm down, kind of fun. Once you've obliterated all the skeet, it's time to jump a bunch in the triple jump. First, you have to get your speed up and pop quiz. Yep, smash A. I heard someone say it. You smash A, and like long jump, you'll need to jump at the right angle before you get to the line. And once you land, jump again. And then again. 3 jumps in the triple jump. No surprises there. Once you get a feel for how to nail the angles when you jump, this one is easy. Next is archery. And finally, no running or button mashing here. You do need to account for wind, and the targets are moving, so your timing is key. Once you get in a groove, this one is pretty fun for a brief period. As with most of the things in this game, competition with a friend makes the fun last longer. Lastly, the high jump, and this is the toughest to get the hang of, or was for me. Start running, you know how to do that, and then at the line, jump. But get your angle right, and then tap the control pad a couple more times while your jumper is mid-flight to angle them over the bar and not hit it. This one took me a bunch of tries to get right, and since it's the last event on the list, if you're looking for a fully flawless playthrough for considering this one beaten, this one is your run killer. Well, that's the extent of this one. A lot is left up to you as to how fun you make it. Play with a friend, try to run through the events without failing, and ascend to the next round of difficulty. It's your call. There are no other frills or options. The graphics are decent, the gameplay is pretty fair, and for a simplistic concept, Konami did a decent enough job. Just bring your best A button finger because you're going to need it.
Right from the start, Konami Sports for Nintendo break away from the crowd. Test your skill and stamina in Track and Field 2's 15 grueling events, including Taekwondo, skeet shooting, and canoeing. Then strap on your skates for Blades of Steel, the hottest game on ice. It's full high-contact hockey, where you're in control right down to the fights. Konami Sports, from the makers of Double Dribble. Konami, wherever great games are sold.
I don't know if there were legions of track and field fans clamoring for this follow-up, but Konami did it anyway, and they really stepped up the game in a few departments, namely graphics and music. Here you get options to train in the events or to compete in the Olympics with the ability to select from a few different countries. And when you choose the Olympics, you're greeted by one of the longest intros to a mode in any NES game. It's almost as long as the real opening to the Olympics. And this game has names of actual Olympians from the countries that you'll compete as or against in the games. It's a really nice touch that most would not suspect based on the title, the cover, or its simplistic predecessor. Again, not even the game's cover makes any connection to the actual Olympic Games, or the fact that they included real athletes in the game. However, Track and Field 2 is known as Konami Sports in Seoul, referring to Seoul, South Korea, where the games were held in 1988. In training mode, you can select whichever event you want to train in. In Olympic mode, you play the games in an order, broken into days, and you'll need to perform well on the first day's events to qualify for the next day. It's a neat way to form a campaign here. It means you don't have to ace every single event, but you need to be decent at most of them to survive. This mode even has a password system so that if you survive day 1, but day 2 is giving you guff, you can always start day 2 over. Thanks, Konami. The weird thing about this one is that each mode, training, Olympic, and versus, have different events. For example, you can't train on arm wrestling, hang gliding, or pistol shooting, and arm wrestling is only available in the versus mode. It's not even in the Olympics. While you can't train on hang gliding or pistol shooting, these events are optional to you at the end of the main competition of the Olympics as a bonus, I suppose. The main events in this game include fencing, which can be cheese a little bit if you know what you're doing. You have 6 minutes to stab your opponent 5 times. First 1 to 5 stabs wins. Next is the triple jump, and this one works a lot like it did in the last game. 3 jumps. Then there's freestyle swimming, and I had a hard time getting the hang of it. You have to smash A, no surprise, to get your stroke on, but you might drown if you don't press B to take breaths, so there's a rhythm to it that I didn't quite master. With more time, maybe. Until then, it's just the game I frantically mashed buttons in until it was over. While we're at the pool, next is high diving. Here you can select your dive type, forward, backward, reverse, twist, and then dive in, but on the way down you need to get fancy to impress the judges by tucking or jackknifing or going full swan before straightening out when you hit the water. Next is clay pigeon shooting. I had thought this one used the light gun, but I couldn't get it to work and the manual makes no mention of it. This shooting minigame is much easier than the one in the first game and works exactly how it looks like it would. Next is the hammer throw, and the manual makes a Popeye reference here to get you motivated. Get your spinach ready. But the game has no spinach, so you'll need to rotate the D-pad counterclockwise to build up momentum, and then you'll press A at the right time to launch your hammer into a direction where hopefully no one is standing. Next is Taekwondo. I found this one to be a little tricky, but also one of the better fighting games on the NES. The NES is limited in fighting games due to its limited number of buttons, but here you can do high and low punches, jump kicks, roundhouse kicks, high kicks. It's not bad, and the manual even references the Ninja Turtles. You have to knock out your opponent or have more energy left than they do at the end of 3 rounds. Opponents can be pretty mean, so watch out, and be sure to let out a hearty cowabunga when you emerge victorious. Now we're back to pole vaulting, and yeah, this one is as annoying as the one in the first game. Here, as you sprint, you need to keep an eye on the end of your pole, and the little box on the ground you're running toward. Once they overlap, plant your pole in the dirt and take flight. Then, right as the pole straightens, let go, and hopefully land safely on the mat without a pole jutting out of your torso. This one takes practice. Next is canoeing, and you'll want to have the manual on hand, or heed my advice here. This event is not as it seems. There are 3 ways to go through the gates. With the front of your canoe, naturally, or backward, or you need to go around the gate and enter it from the other side. The signs near the gate tell you what you need to do to satisfy the gate to get to the end. It's more tedious than difficult, but don't treat it like a ski slalom or you'll have a bad time. And we're not done yet. Everyone okay? You need some water? We're good? Okay, good, because we've got more. Next is archery, and instead of top-down like the first game, this is a side view with a bigger archer sprite. This version is a little more, I'll say, delicate. Your shots are longer range, so wind and power need to be more precise if you want to nail the bullseye. I like this version. It made me feel like Robin Hood. Next is hurdles. It works like hurdles worked in the last game, so you're good. Then there's the horizontal bar, which I don't have a mind to understand how exactly it works. What I do know is that you mash A whole bunch to rotate around this bar, and then you press B on occasion to get fancy with it, as they say, before finally going for the finish where you'll dismount and go for a landing. And pro tip on landing, hold up on the D-pad to straighten yourself out. I wasn't skilled enough to get to hang gliding or pistol shooting. Just imagine they are games where you have to either mash A or mash A and then press B at some point. Then, last of all, and only available in multiplayer, is arm wrestling. So you and a pal can get together and mash A to your heart's content to see who emerges victorious. Now you could just, actually arm wrestle each other, but having a mash A off is fun too, I guess. Or an A mash off, whichever. And that does it for Track and Field 2. Master all these events, go to the Olympics, bring the gold home to your country of choice. You can do this. I believe in you and your thumbs. One thing of note is that the Japanese version of Hyper Olympic requires a special controller to play it, so be aware of that. I've never seen one of these up close before, but it looks like it would make button mashing a little easier at least. When checking these out, I was expecting some very light and forgettable experiences like sports minigame compilations tend to become, like Snoopy's Silly Sports Spectacular or Caveman games, but here, there's some challenge. The events here are represented nicely, the presentation is well done, and I mean, it's 80s Konami, so of course it's quality. It's not a game for everyone, but I got more out of these than I expected to, and you might too. Well, that's going to do it for today. As always, smash A, but don't drown. And thanks for watching.